Welcome to the Every Brain is Different podcast. We're here with Donna Kay. She is a leading ADHD expert, board certified health practitioner, 2 times international best-selling author, host of the Soaring Child podcast, and the CEO and founder of the ADHD Thrive Institute. She is also a mother to a child with ADHD, and she knows firsthand the struggles that come with parenting a neurodiverse child. Welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you so much, Samantha. So much, Lauren. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about how you're involved in the neurodivergent community?
Yeah, look, I work with families all across the US. I know I don't sound like I come from the US. I live in a sunny Seattle. I say sunny lightly. And I work with families that have neurodivergent children every single day, specifically children with ADHD and related challenges. Through my company, ADHD Thrive Institute, we've been lucky enough to support over 1,500 families, really helping those parents reduce symptoms naturally, really focusing on the biological triggers that are going on in the body, looking at diet, gut health, inflammation, things like that. All of those things that are affecting the behavior, the mood, the sleep, the focus. For me, it's not really about fixing the child. It's about supporting their biology so they can thrive. And I also educate through my podcast, The Soaring Child, my programs, my online trainings, and really supporting parents because I know I've been in the thick of it back in the day when my son was really, really struggling.
Yeah, and I love that you say you don't fix kids, you just help them with their biology because so many people, this has been a few years, but they would bring their kid to me and just say, fix them. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're not here to fix them. Like they don't need fixing. They just need support so that they can thrive in this world that wasn't
Yeah.
made for them. And honestly, a lot of the things that needed like quote unquote fixing was how the parents responded to the kids.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, can you tell us more about the gut brain connection and how that kind of interacts with ADHD and how that works?
Yeah, look, it's one of my favorite topics. So thank you so much for asking that one. I think I want to start off with a bit of statistics. It's really, really interesting, but it's estimated that about 54% of American children have been diagnosed like with a chronic illness. This was done in 2018, so I can't even imagine what it is in today's terms of 2025. That figure a couple of years before that was only 15%. And so when I heard that, I was like, shocked because that increase happens so quickly. One in two have anxiety, asthma, type 1, type 2 diabetes, heart problems, allergies, learning difficulties, hyperactivity, all of these things. 1 in 5 have allergies, 1 in 6 have developmental delays, and 1 in 32 have autism. And I just read the other day, 1 in 12 boys in California have autism. And we've got to ask ourselves, well, why do you think that the rise has occurred so rapidly? And I think it very much comes back to the gut because 80% of the body's entire immune system is within the gut wall, and along with all of the nerve cells and bacteria and things like that. And so all of our children's health is quite literally connected to everything that goes on in the gut and our own health, obviously. But, we're here talking about children. But the amount of families that I've spoken to, we always do a health history and we ask, is there any history of sickness? Everyone tells me, yeah, they're fit and healthy. But when I sort of press forward, a lot of the children that we work with have been on antibiotics or suffered from diarrhea or constipation. And they're actually surprised to learn that constipation and diarrhea, it's not healthy or normal. It might be very, very common, but it's a byproduct of an unhealthy gut. And I actually wish I took sort of like a survey or something of how many families kids had been on antibiotics, because what most antibiotics do, they work by killing bacteria or preventing it from growing. They can be life-saving, but unfortunately, most antibiotics can't distinguish between the good and the bad. And so what that means is it wreaks havoc on the gut's healthy bacteria. And you can actually suffer lasting changes to the gut flora as a result of taking antibiotics. So we've got this large percentage of children on these multiple rounds of antibiotics, and that's in turn compromising the gut And when 80% of the entire immune system is within the gut wall, it's kind of not a huge surprise to see that the disorders and illnesses are on the rise. But you're probably going, okay, well, that all makes sense, but what's that got to do with ADHD? But what the gut-brain connection means is that, in essence, our brains are deeply connected to our guts. And when our guts aren't functioning well, our brains can't function to the best of their capabilities either. 95% of our body's serotonin and 50% of our body's dopamine is produced in the gut. And these are the hormones or the neurotransmitter that help us manage emotions, balance our mood, help our cognitive function. And I know when my son was struggling with his ADHD symptoms a lot, emotional dysregulation was one of the biggest things that we struggled with. But people don't realize that an emotional dysregulation can actually start in the gut where that serotonin and the dopamine are being made. But I think that's just one side of it. The other side of it is the brain has many areas involved in gut function. One of the main areas is the frontal lobe. And for those that are just listening and not actually looking at the video, I'm pointing to the middle of my forehead, but that's the area of the brain that talks to the gut via the vagus nerve and two-way chemical messages and nerve branches. And the frontal lobe is responsible for attention and focus and executive function and planning and organizing and problem solving. I mean, do any of those areas sound like ones that are affected by ADHD? Yeah. I know my son used to struggle with that so much. And if you're familiar with ADHD, which I know you guys are, but with listeners, they're common ADHD symptoms. Children with ADHD often struggle with all of those tasks. And because the frontal lobe is in the brain, many people are under the impression it's only the brain that needs care, when in reality, it's also the gut that's exacerbating and causing some of those problems. I like to use analogies sort of to explain it a little bit. Have you ever felt sort of those butterfly or nauseous feeling in your stomach when you're nervous about something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it was a first date or a test or a conflict with someone. That's a perfect example of the gut-brain connection. Our bodies are perceiving whatever we're nervous about as a stressful situation, and then our brain will trigger that raw emotion in the gut, resulting in that nauseous feeling or butterflies. So that's the brain talking to the gut. But the reverse is also true. Our guts talk to our brains as well. And so when we've got a compromised immune system, when we've got a compromised gut or a higher level of bad bacteria than good, that creates inflammation. And that inflammation travels through the vagus nerve and to the brain. And once it reaches the brain, it creates those symptoms or exacerbates those symptoms like brain fog, which is the inability to focus, or poor memory, or a whole host of neurobehavioral disorders like ADHD and anxiety and depression. So it's like this highway. They're constantly talking to each other.
Yeah, that is fascinating. I was told the other day that my vagus nerve is overstimulated.
Yeah.
Do you know, like, what does that mean? Because they didn't tell me anything about it. They're just like, your vagus nerve is overstimulated because I have my gag reflex is like on, I swear, like high alert or something. And so I'm just like constantly like working with that. But you mentioned the vagus nerve about the gut, like that's the highway that the like communication goes on. So what does it mean when your vagus nerve is overstimulated?
Well, it can result from so many different things. I mean, if we
Mm.
think about stress in our life, stress impacts the body. And when we think about parenting and parenting neurodiverse children and things like that, also the stress that puts on our body and our nervous system, we're on high alert. We're in fight or flight. So your vagus nerve is in fight or flight, and it needs to calm down. And so that's causing these raw, real physical symptoms in your body. And so your body's like in this fight or flight mode. And a lot of parents of kids with ADHD or neurodevelopmental disorders are in that constant fight or flight. And so we need to calm that down. We need to restore the body. We need to reduce the inflammation. And you can reduce that inflammation in multiple different areas, vagus nerve stimulation or working on your gut. And so it's really about each individual's biology is different. One thing for your vagus nerve that's overstimulated may be the different root cause from someone else. So, you really have to look at that bio individual and see what's going on in their body, target that so the body can just calm down and relax.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. What are some of the things that you can do with families if they want to explore like how to help the gut-brain connection?
Yeah, and as I said, every child's a bio
Mm-hmm.
individual. And so we really look at what is contributing to inflammation, because that inflammation is driving symptoms, is exacerbating symptoms. And so for my son, one of the biggest things was gluten and an overload of his trash can. And I'll explain what that means. Again, I love analogies, but I've got this trash can here, a little mini trash can for those that are just listening. But we're exposed to so many things in life, whether it be for diet, whether it be medication, like those antibiotics that we were talking about, whether it's environmental toxins, and that puts a load on our trash can. And you think about your trash can in your house. Every Monday, you take it out onto the side of the road for the garbage truck to pick it up and empty it. But if the garbage truck doesn't come around and you don't take it out to the sidewalk on a Monday, think about all that trash overflowing. You're going to have a really, really dirty house, and it'll be gross, and it's not going to feel good. It's not going to function well. It's the same with our bodies. If our trash cans are overloaded and we can't take it to the sidewalk, meaning our detoxification pathways are compromised, which is very, very common with kids, their trash can's going to overload. And if that's all in their body, they're not going to feel well. Their symptoms are going to be worse. They're going to be on fire kind of thing. So we need to work out what's contributing to the load of their trash can. We need to reduce the load on their trash can, and we need to help open up those pathways so they can empty it. And so really there's a number of ways that we can do that. We can do that with diet. We can do it with functional lab testing. And so that's really looking, okay, well, let's look at the state of the gut. What's causing that inflammation? What's causing that to go up to the brain? We can look at other functional lab tests that actually identify other areas of inflammation, and we can target that. We can reduce the load on the body. We can bring in supplements. And so I think for lots of families, it's sort of this multi-prong approach. And also you talk a lot about parenting, and parenting in a certain way. That's super important because, when mum's stressed, your vagus nerve is going to be overstimulated, but our whole house is stressed as well. And this is no blame whatsoever. I have totally been there. I was that chronic yeller back in the day, but we look at all the areas in that person's life, in their body, their underlying biology, and we target that. So that can come from multiple different ways.
Yeah, I love that you come at it from multiple different ways and don't just say, this is the answer. This is what's going to help you be all better. Like,
Yeah.
because you definitely, it's just like therapy. You have to take a child-centered or person-centered approach,
Mm.
and then you can decide what's the best plan of action for them. Like, I don't use the same music in music therapy for all my kids
Yeah.
because some kids don't like some of the music and it doesn't work for them. So I love that you take a multi-pronged approach to it.
I love that you just said that as well.
Yeah.
And I think music is so calming to the vagus nerve as well. So the fact that that component is huge, and that's part of it. It's reducing stress, and it's not just stress that we know, it's internal underlying stresses like all the things that I was talking about, but it's those external stresses as well. And music is so powerful to do that.
Yeah, there is this company called Unite, and they have a safe and sound protocol that they use where I was part of their research and they played this music. And when I listen to stereotypical relaxing music, I don't really feel like super calm or whatever. Like, I'm just like, I want to listen to something else. But they specifically wrote this music to affect the vagus nerve. And I instantly like felt more calm and felt more relaxed. And it was wild. I was like, I was not expecting that to happen. but I really want to bring that into my practice to help people who maybe their vagus nerve is overstimulated or whatever. And that way that they can listen to it and they can also come out of that fight or flight. Because when you're in fight or flight all the time, like your behavior is going to be worse because you're always in fight or flight. And so then one little thing happens and you just like explode because you're already overwhelmed. So
Yes.
yeah, I was just looking into that. It's like the polyvagal theory and all of that stuff, but it just fascinates me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Me too.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to bring that into my practice very soon, but I have to talk to them about what is the right program to get, I guess. But
Yes.
anyway, I was going to ask you another question. I just forgot what it was. Is there anything else that you want to share about what we've been talking about that parents should know?
Yeah, look, I think that if I take it back to the number one thing driving ADHD symptoms, one of the biggest hidden stressors in our kids right now contributing to their ADHD symptoms is that inflammation. And we take it back to that trash can. Chronic inflammation has become more prevalent over the years, and it's linked to so many diseases and disorders. And it's a biological response triggered by their immune system, triggered by what's going on in their gut. And so we really want to focus on that child and see what's contributing to their inflammation. Not all inflammation is bad. Inflammation is kind of like the body's first defense system, and it's their attempt at self-protection to begin the healing process. That's for acute inflammation. But the bad inflammation, that's the long-term inflammation that is prolonged for several months or years. That's the chronic inflammation. That's the ugly inflammation that we really want to start reducing. And so when the body fails to eliminate that acute inflammation, and when you're getting that constant exposure of low level things like in their diet, in their supplements, in medication, in their environment, even in their water, like the water is so different across the US. And you can even ring up your water board and get a report of what's actually in the water, but that can be contributing to inflammation. So really just, I don't know, do a stock take of your life. Look at your diet. Look at your water supply. Look at your environment. What's going on? What's your cleaning products like? Are people using spraying pesticides next door in your house? And really take stock. And if you can see that there are a lot of areas that could be contributing to that inflammation, let's just start reducing them. That's the first thing we can do. But I just want to remind families, I know at first when you hear this, you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do about my diet? What do I do about this? What do I do about this? But Rome wasn't built in a day. And you don't need to make all of these changes at once. Once you know this information, it's so empowering because you can just start to make small, slow steps to keep you moving forward. And especially around diet, I mean, who doesn't feel better when they eat better? And so if we can just even start by, let's change up diet. I mean, breakfast. Let's, that's the most important meal for our kids when they go off to school. So let's just make breakfast a little bit healthier. And when you're comfortable with that, let's tackle something else. So I think the most important thing for families is to remember that Rome wasn't built in a day and you don't need to do everything today.
Yes, yes, just start small and go from there. Do you have any resources that you recommend? I know you have some books. You can mention those and then any other things that you recommend for parents?
Yeah, thank you for asking because it's just funny that I just said, let's start with breakfast. I actually have an ADHD friendly breakfast guide. I'll give you the link and families can download that. As I said, it's one of the most important meals of the day and it's a really, really important change. It sets the tone for the entire day. And so the right breakfast can really make a massive difference in mood and focus and behavior. So I'll drop that link. I also have a podcast called The Soaring Child, where I interview experts just like you, Samantha, and I'd love to have you on, who are navigating this journey in real time and helping their children thrive with ADHD naturally. And music is a big component of that. I have my international best-selling book. It is called Thriving with ADHD, a guide to naturally reducing ADHD symptoms in your child. And you can find me on all social platforms on my website, which is ADHD Thrive Institute.
Awesome. Yes, I would love to be on your podcast. And I love that you have that guide for the breakfast. Do you have any tips on if your child will only eat one thing for breakfast? Do you have like things for that?
I do.
Okay.
Picky eating is a common scenario. I would say about 70% of the families that we work with have picky eaters. So you're definitely not alone in that journey. It can seem really overwhelming. We use a number of different methods. I don't know if we have a time to dive into
Yeah.
it now.
We can have you back on the show to
I
talk
can do
about that. I
I
think that
can,
would be amazing
yes, I
because
can do
that is
back and
yeah, we don't have to jump into that right
yeah.
now,
But
but
I just want to say that
yeah.
there is hope. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I remember this one family that I work with when her son came to work with me. He ate 5 foods. That was it. He'd already done a year of feeding therapy. He'd already done a year of play therapy to help him overcome this with no luck. Started working with me in my program and we did lab testing and everything. He now eats over 200 different foods. So if that family can overcome that with eating 5 foods, I know that anyone out there can overcome that. I was scared at first with this one, but we were able to tackle it. So I will just say check his zinc levels as well. Zinc deficiency can actually contribute to picky eating. But once zinc deficiency sets in, it then has become this vicious cycle, and you need to break that vicious cycle as well. But we do want to correct that underlying deficiency if there is one.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. Thank you. And then our last question is, what do you do for fun?
Okay, well, I'm originally from Australia, and I told you that I live in sunny Seattle. But my husband and my boys, we love go hiking. The Pacific Northwest is so beautiful. It's really, really enjoyable. And I have to say, I can't believe that I'm saying this because I'm Australian. We don't have American football in Australia, but both my boys play American football and my oldest also runs track and field. And I actually really enjoy watching them do that. I can't believe it. When I first signed up my oldest son, who's now 15, who is thriving, he's the one that got me on this journey originally. He was on multiple meds and now he's in high school thriving. He hasn't been on meds for years, but when I first signed him up to American football, I don't think I knew what I was getting myself into. But now he's been doing it for 5 years and I thoroughly enjoy watching it. So there we go.
That's awesome. I love it. I love football, and my kids are sick of football. And so they'll be like, "Oh, you're watching it again." And I'm like, and so then when the Super Bowl happened, they're like, "This is the last football game, right? There's no more after this." And I said, "Yeah, this is the last one until August." Oh, good. I'm like, you are not my children. But anyway. But yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And we'll definitely have you back on the show to talk about picky eating because I know that is a really hard thing that a lot of families face. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So you're good.
Hey everyone, Samantha here, and I'm thrilled to invite you to join me for something special, the Parenting Power Hour. This is your chance, parents of neurodivergent kids, to bring your questions directly to me and fellow parents in the room. We're here to help you develop actionable plans that really work so you can finally stop the meltdowns and find peace in your home. As a mom to 3 kids with ADHD and autism, I've seen and been through the challenges too. So trust me, we'll find solutions together that fit your family. Don't miss out on the Parenting Power Hour. It's a free online monthly gathering every second Thursday of the month from 12:45 to 1:45 Mountain Standard Time. Visit everybrainisdifferent.com to reserve your spot today. Okay, well, she was amazing. I always am curious about the gut-brain connection because like I said in the podcast, I have been learning more about polyvagal theory and about the vagus nerve and how that affects the gut-brain connection. I loved what she said about like environmental factors and stuff. I just wanted to clarify that I don't think that the rise in autism diagnoses is completely due to environmental factors. I truly believe that it's just we understand autism better than we did before in the 60s when it was like 1 in 10,000 or something like that. And we have better diagnostic tools. There's more knowledge about neurodivergent diagnoses. And so more people are like, oh, maybe my kid could have that. And so they're pushing to get an assessment where before they would just wait for a doctor to be like, oh, I think your kid has autism, where now they're actually going out and saying, I think my kid has autism because of these reasons that the doctor might not see. So I think it's a combination of both, but I think the majority of the rise in cases is due to just better diagnostic tools. But yeah, I just had to get that out there. What do you
Yeah.
think? What are your opinions?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think I mean, she listed a bunch of other chronic illnesses and stuff like that. And I think that's fair to say that there's an increase in a lot of things in our environment, food, and all of that. Like everything plays a role in everything. But I think specifically for the autism diagnosis, I kind of agree with you that we do have better tools to test and things like that. And I think some of that also, especially with adults too, is the social media aspect of more people sharing their experiences and people finding out that, oh, I thought I was just like a weirdo or whatever. And like there's so many more and they're asking more questions and stuff like that. And so yeah, at least that's how I feel about that side.
Yeah. But I thought her stuff on the gut-brain connection was fascinating.
Yeah, I love when we have, and we've had a few people come on and talking about like we have to look at the whole person. And I love like every brain is different. I love that she said every child's biology, everyone's biology is different. Again, it's not a one size fits all. You know, what causes inflammation in one person isn't going to cause it in another. And so, like she said, you have to take multiple approaches. And so I appreciate that. And it's our bodies are just weird and cool and fascinating. And there's still so many things to learn and how things interact and contribute. And so very fascinated by the gut brain. I'd like to do some more of my own research, obviously, but I think it's very, very interesting. And I appreciate it that Rome wasn't built in a day. She's not trying to fix anybody, trying to support the biology that somebody has and looking at different things and taking baby steps to figure it all out. So it's just another route to look into in someone's journey. So love it.
Yeah, for sure. I just think all that is fascinating since I've learned about it. So I'm happy that she could come on.
Oh.
And I really want to know her tips for picky eating. So we will definitely have her back on because
Absolutely.
picky eating is like awful. But because like I don't care what my kids eat. I just want them to be healthy. you
Yeah.
know? And they have some lower levels of things that shouldn't be so low, but they won't eat the food. So it's a problem.
Yeah, and I think going into that, like food probably is playing a role. Like if you're only eating chicken nuggets, you're probably lacking on some needed stuff. But you know,
Yeah.
you can't just force food through.
Yeah, which
Not
someone should really do a
Yeah.
study about why people with autism like chicken nuggets so much. Like, what is it about chicken nuggets that kids and adults with autism like? I just need to know this. But
I'm
it's
doing
another
something else.
question for another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone who listened. If you would like more information about the gut-brain connection, definitely contact Donna. And if you would like support for yourself, if you're wondering what the next step is for you and your family, I would love to have you in the neurodivergent parenting community. And you can go out to everybrainisdifferent.com to find out more about that. So everyone have a good week and we'll see you in the next episode.